Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Manhattan Sephardic Congregation.
No, we should use it. We should use it. Yeah.
We'd like to welcome you all to our synagogue, and we'd like to welcome Rabbi Avraham Greenbaum, founder and director of Zamra. Tonight's lecture is a very special one, Rambom's Advice to the Sultan of Egypt, which the presentation will also include the system of the Rambom of a healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, spiritual balance, and its practical applications for today. Rabbi Greenbaum is an internationally known teacher of Torah, spirituality, Kabbalah, Hasidut, preventive health care. He was born in Britain in 1949. He's an author of over 25 books. He received his MA in Classics and Social Sciences. He also spent 4 years in BBC radio news commentator and producer. So I'd like to welcome him to our congregation, and we're looking forward to a great lecture. There's going to be a question and answer series session after the lecture. Also, there are books and CDs that are being sold, books that are being sold in the back. Please speak with David Schrecky. I'd like to personally thank David for organizing this event. Last session we should have more events together. And there's also some brachot to be recited after the lecture, and they are for the yahrzeit of Yosef ben Zohar. Thank you, Mark Hazan, for sponsoring it. The memory of his father today is yahrzeit. Yosef ben Zohar. Please have in mind his name also for the lecture, to have in mind the name of Yosef ben Zohar. And without further ado, I present to you Rabbi Greenbaum. Thank you.
Mishmas Yosef ben Zohar. Thank you, Rabbi Ufo ben Shimon, for your kind introduction to me, and I'm grateful to the Sephardic congregation of Manhattan for the opportunity to be able to be here and to speak to you tonight in this very special shul, of which this is my very first visit, of which it could be said, perhaps applied the verse in Tehillim, Batzar Yirchavtoli. In the narrow confines of a New York brownstone, we've created a whole Makom Kadosh. In a narrow place you have sent the expansion, and let us hope and pray that tonight's class will lead to expanded consciousness and good health and strength for all of us and all the people that we have the power to influence. I've not heard radio or checked in on internet or seen a newspaper in the last few hours, but I think it was a pretty regular day in New York City and a very regular day throughout the world. Probably some rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel despite the so-called ceasefire, but that shouldn't worry us. Everything's okay. Or is it? I think we really have to understand that not only are we at a time of existential crisis as the people of Israel in our land, faced with the possibility of nuclear weapons, God forbid, being unleashed against Eretz HaKodesh, against the Holy Land. Not only that, but also we must be aware of the existential crisis, particularly among our young people. And I'm speaking across the board, across the gamut, across the rainbow of Jewish colors, from the ultra-Orthodox to the ultra-non-Orthodox. And there is not a section of Jewish society where particularly our young people are not at very, very great risk. We live in a society that has changed so rapidly in the last century, in the last 50 years, in the last 10 years, the last 5 years. We now have everywhere bombardment from the radio waves of our telephones. We are bombarded by pollution. The last thing I heard before I left Israel was that the police have a problem now in dealing with dead bodies because bodies today rot more slowly than they used to. And the reason is because people are eating so many preservatives over years and years that the preservatives just get into the body cells and they metabolize differently. If it was only the preservative, that would be one thing, but who knows about the coloring, which is considered essential to every kind of food. Who knows what is in the other additives, the so-called vitamins, those unintelligible, undecipherable ingredients that are printed in tiny letters on the package of the food. Who really knows what is in the food? In the introduction to the Guide to Kashrus of the Bet Din Tzedek, the Supreme Court of the Eda Haridit of Yerushalayim, they wrote that anybody who thinks that bread is made of flour and water doesn't know the aleph base of Kashrus. He doesn't know there are 36 different ingredients in regular bread that come from all over the world, and most of them are chemical additives of one kind or another for some reason. Who knows what all this is doing? Is it any surprise that our communities are riddled with attention deficit disorder? Is it any surprise that obesity is the #1 problem? I'm not only obviously talking about Jewish communities, it's a worldwide phenomenon. In Britain, a group of scientists have just finally come out with the results of the experiments they did with the sodas that everybody drinks today, the 1 calorie or 0 Coca-Cola, discussing the effects of the chemicals that actually give you the sensation that you're drinking something as sweet as sugar, and they've come to the conclusion that within half an hour of drinking about a cup and a half of this substance, people are simply not able to focus on what they're doing. Their level of attention simply begins to deteriorate. And I know a case of a fairly typical teenager, Jewish teenager in northwest London, who had a severe case of anorexia nervosa, and she was living off 0 calories Coca-Cola with all of these additives. And it was finally determined by her medical team that it was precisely this that was causing her to get fixed in the vicious cycle of her situation. And so the subject that I'm talking about is not just a life-enhancing subject. This is something that is critical to our national survival, that we will bring up generations that will have an idea how to protect themselves from the barrage that is coming at their bodies from the environment today and from the foods they're taking in and from many activities. It is crucial for our survival because our kids are getting so knocked about. I just heard a case last night of about, I think it was 15 to 20 young kids who went from being young, budding Lubavitcher Hasidim to being a group of gay youngsters with pierced ears and tattoos living in not the most savory part of the city. There are many reasons why this is happening, and one of the principal reasons that our young people in general not only receive hardly any teaching about what is good for their health and well-being, but when they come to the synagogue and when they come to the yeshiva, they do not hear a word about the fact that taking care of your body is the first mitzvah of the Torah. The first mitzvah of the Torah. Every day, one of the 6 things that we say to remember is Hishomer lecho ushmor nafshecho ma'od pen tishkach es hadaborim asher ra'u einechem. Be very careful of yourself and guard yourself very much, lest you forget the things that you saw with your own eyes, the revelation of God at Sinai. This verse is one of the 6 verses that we recite every day to remember these critical things. The first of all is to remember God's revelation to us at the Torah. If you look in our rabbinic commentaries on this